Today I'm going to go over encounters with the Fae, the fairy folk. And according to these eyewitnesses, the Fae are a lot more evil and sinister than Disney makes them out to be. And many people do believe there is a connection between the fairy folk and all these mysterious disappearances that are going on in America, and also probably the rest of the world. And I'm going to go over this later in the video. But before I get into that, I just want to thank all my viewers. I hope everyone is doing great and looking forward to the spring. I just love making these videos, and I'm blessed to have the audience that I have. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate every single one of you, and I am working on uploading videos a lot more frequently. In 1911, a 73-year-old man, Neil Colton, told an author who was writing a book about fairies about an encounter he had way back in 1853. Neil stated that one summer day he was out picking berries with his brother and female cousin, and while they were out berry hunting, enjoying a beautiful day, they heard some strange but fascinating music. So curious, they walked towards where this music was playing, and they saw behind some boulders a bunch of tiny people dancing and just having a great time. And while they were staring at them in complete shock, one of these little people, a woman dressed in red, saw that they were being observed, and she got extremely angry, ran towards Neil's cousin, and hit her across the face with what appeared to be some sort of stick. So Neil and his brother, scared to death, ran away as fast as they could. But when Neil looked back, he saw that his cousin, the one that got hit with that stick, fell to the ground. It looked like she just died on the spot, so he ran to go get the priest, Father Ryan. And when they returned, the priest got down on his knees and prayed. And whatever he said worked, as Neil's cousin came back to life. Or at least that's what it looked like to Neil. And the father said that she was very lucky, as if she was alone, these little people, the Fae folk, would have took her, and she would have never been seen again. Another similar encounter was reported way back in the 1700s. A British cleric, Edward Williams, told the world about what had happened to him when he was a child. One day while he was out playing with his friends, they saw a group of small people, only inches tall, walking in front of them. These small people were all dressed in red, and they were holding a white handkerchief. And when they realized that they were being watched, these little people got extremely angry and started to yell at them in an unknown language. And Edwards, as well as his friends, they were terrified, and they got the heck out of that field as fast as they could. Now, Edwards stated when he was older that this encounter had perplexed him his whole life, and that he was forced to accept it as one of his unknowables. In the 1800s, there were reports of a group of evil fairy folk that were attacking people. It was believed at the time that these fairies had what they described as a fort that humans were now living closer and closer to. And if any human came close to this fort, they would attack, or sometimes even kill you. One woman, Claire Westrope, reported that she knew where this fairy fort was, and she told the locals to stay far, far away from it. In one account, badger hunters accidentally stumbled upon this fort, and they stated that they were attacked by a whole fleet of fairies, and that they were very lucky to escape. This encounter happened in a small town in Ireland, and the Irish know very well the Fae folk, and in their folklore, these fairies, which they call in their native tongue the She, are probably the ones responsible if anyone disappears, or so they believe, and this makes me think about all those missing 401 cases. In 1844, a family claimed that they saw the Fae try to kidnap their child. They awoke to see their baby had been dragged all the way to the edge of their bed, and they saw what they described as tiny sandy things trying to steal their child. And when the Fae noticed that the parents were waking up, they flew away through a tiny hole in the floor, laughing as they disappeared. And from then on, the mother would make sure that her baby would always sleep in the middle of the bed, between her and her husband, as well as pinning the baby's clothes to the bed, pillow, and sheets, so it won't be so easy for them to take it. It's believed in Irish folklore that these fairies would kidnap children, but then give the mothers an exact copy of the baby, a changeling, a magical creature that looks like a human baby, but is possessed by a fairy. And the mothers, well, they would eventually find out, as this changeling wouldn't grow like a normal baby. In some cases, the baby would grow a beard, or be a lot more intelligent than a normal child should be at that age. And it's not just babies, changelings could happen to an adult, although that would be extremely rare. Or what if maybe it was just harder to detect? In these missing 401 cases, one thing I find extremely mysterious, and I'm sure you do too, is the cases where the kids do get found, but in places there was just no way they could have got there themselves. And I'm not going to get too much into that in this video, but it is surprising how many stories there are. Just yesterday I was searching for a case that has always stuck with me, but I forgot the name of the child, so I had to go through dozens and dozens of other stories of missing kids that were found in places that should have been impossible for them to get to. The story I was looking for was the case of 2-year-old Rowan Griffin. Rowan went missing for a couple days back in 2010. He was last seen playing with a cat in the woods, so there was a huge search party looking for Rowan, and thankfully in this case they did find him. But he was found miles away on an island that was surrounded by a swamp. And the reason I wanted to cover this in this video is Rowan wasn't wet. There was no way Rowan could have got to that island without getting wet. It was surrounded by a deep swamp. And also Rowan was only 2 years old. He didn't even know how to swim. And for me personally, this is where it gets even more interesting. The search party who found Rowan found his shoes just lying on the ground ways before they found him on that island. In so many of these missing 411 cases, people find the kid's shoes or some piece of clothing belonging to the kid or even the adult that had gone missing. The story I just talked about earlier about the woman who saw these tiny sandy things trying to steal their baby said that at the edge of the bed, they were taking the baby's clothes off first. So from then on, she would pin the baby in its clothes to the pillow, bed, and sheets. So before they abduct someone, it seems that maybe the Fae have to take off their victim's clothing first. While I was making this video, I was shocked at how many people, my fellow paranormal junkies, have written articles or made videos about their theories involving missing 411 and clothes, or about the many other cases where the kids were found but their shoes were missing. One Reddit poster stated, "Where do the shoes go? I've read all the books, watched all the videos, read all the articles. I love mysteries and I have my own theories to these stories, but I'm mostly bothered by the lack of shoes in these cases. I can't for the life of me figure this out." And one story a child said that the snakes ate his shoes, and another a teenage girl said that a bear dog ate her shoes. Just from these two comments you can see that something is eating shoes. This just drives me insane. Now because of what we know now, thanks to David Paulides, as well as other great investigators, I find it extremely fascinating that the Irish, for centuries, have told their kids that if they go into the woods, or just outside, that they should turn their clothes inside and out to avoid getting kidnapped by the fairies, or to avoid the fairies playing tricks on them. One old Irish encounter tells a story of a man who was walking back home late at night. This man, probably drunk and lost, encountered the pixies dancing, and he was compelled to join them. And while he was dancing with them, they swarmed upon him and started to attack him. But thankfully, while under the fairy's spell, he still had enough presence of mind to turn his gloves inside and out. And after he did this, the fairy stopped attacking him and he was able to get away. Another more recent encounter happened to an American folk singer, Artie Trauman, in 1971. Artie claimed that while he was walking in the forest, he started to hear strange voices. And these voices started to get louder and louder, and Artie started to freak out. And it wasn't just voices, he also could hear a melody. And he soon noticed that these voices were saying, "Run, man, run!" So Artie did exactly that. He started to panic. And while he was bolting it through the forest, these noises got so loud that it seemed that they were in his head. But thankfully for Artie, he was close to civilization. And right after he got out of the woods, these voices, they just stopped. Now before I go, I would just like to point out that while I was researching this video, I learned that the native word for fairies in Ireland, she, originally meant a mound or a place where fairies dwell, like a magical place, like a portal to another dimension. Interesting indeed. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.